I swear Mercury's retrograde. Good morning, everybody. It's Janet from Living Astrology. That means it's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax so we could chat about what is happening up in the stars above. So this morning, nothing wants to work. Who knows why? I can't get anything to print. I couldn't get my camera and my ears to work or my headset to work. It's just crazy. And then when I went to start the show, it didn't have me in the stage. So, anyway, it's just one of those days, right? But it's all right. We have our coffee, we have our tea, we have each other. So here we are to talk about what is coming up for this particular week. It's not a horrible week in terms of like last week where we had lots of things, right? Inner planets changing signs. We had the full moon, we had the summer solstice, we had a lot of different things changing. So this last week was kind of crazy. And for those of you who didn't hear, on Friday after it was about 10 to 12, I lost my oldest sister. Um, Unexpected. I mean, it was unexpected that she went down so fast. As you know, I've been struggling with my other sister, who is still hanging on there, but the oldest sister died on Friday. Interesting, right between the solstice and the full moon. Huge gateway time, but she is no longer in any pain or suffering. So there's that. I it was just a crazy weekend because I also had my two youngest grandsons, and boy energy is just so active, right? We're I'm trying to grieve. I don't get a chance to grieve because I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they want us to do things and go places. So in a way, it was kind of good because I didn't have to sit and, think about it too much. But it was just one of those days, right? Just so if you all did not get the recordings and so forth, it's because I just didn't get a chance to do them from Friday's show. But anyway, thank you all for your well wishes out there. And my sister was 81. She was significantly older than me and my little sister. And it wasn't, terribly unexpected. It just happened so fast. That's the thing, right? One's lingering in the same condition while the other one just kind of, boom, said, I'm out of here and left. So let's carry on, shall we? This morning, I had everything, all these things lined up to talk about, but I haven't been able to print my notes, so we're going to wing it. Ha. Today, the moon has, or later last evening, the moon moved into Aquarius. So we start the week with the moon in a sign that brings us, some different kinds of energies, innovation, perhaps, and inventiveness, and that kind of thing. And as we think about, the moon moving through, I'm going to kind of share some of the human design aspects of the moon in Aquarius. We don't always get to do that because I usually have so many different things to talk about, but today I want to talk a little bit about that. But let's start with the key themes while the moon is in Aquarius. And the first one is about that innovative, inventive, sort of original thinking sort of energy that comes up. It encourages us, right? The moon encourages us to think outside of the box, to maybe see things in a way that we don't normally see them, and in a way that takes us into this idea of like, if we jump outside of the box, then we see things in a different way than if we stay inside of the box. So it kind of triggers our brain to move in different directions, right? To embrace new ideas and to be able to, kind of tap into our own uniqueness, whatever that is for you, right? Because it's going to be different for everybody. And then as well, Aquarius is one of the signs that we talk about independence with, right? Sagittarius is another one, Aries is another one, but a key theme in the transit of the moon through Aquarius is independence. It's sort of this strong need for personal freedom and for autonomy. right? Being able to be your own person. And so sometimes with the moon moving through Aquarius, we might crave space and a place where we can be our own person and to, experience our own inner freedom. But yet, on the other hand, Aquarius is also a sign of social connection and it's socially oriented. It's an air sign. It emphasizes the group activities. It's about friends and connections to networks of people that you know and associations, right? The people or groups that we associate with. So it's a great time to also connect with like minded people and to participate in a community or in a group activity. Um, but as long as those groups that you are a part of also value your own personal autonomy within the group. So if you're a part of a group that, insists that you behave in a certain way, that isn't going to fly with the moon in Aquarius so much you may decide, "Ooh, I don't think this group is for me." Aquarius also, now interesting, the moon is about emotions and our intuition, our inner needs, all of those types of things. While the moon is moving through Aquarius, Aquarius has a more emotional detachment associated with it. So the emotions that we experience, and I kind of am feeling this morning, actually, now that I think about it, that our emotions may be experienced more intellectually than the usual way of emotion. And I'm kind of feeling like that, kind of set aside the emotion in favor of it's not that the emotion's gone, but I can just view it with detachment, maybe getting a perspective of some distance. So for the next couple of days, that may be something we experience. We might be gaining perspective in an emotional um, kind of challenging situation, but doing it from a detached sort of way. Now my printer is going to print, so y'all are going to hear that sound in the background. My apologies. Humanitarianism. The moon in Aquarius is about power to the people. And so it makes me always think about grassroots movements, right? The things that where people come together spontaneously for a cause or for, doing something together. And most of the time it would be about the greater good, right? That's the key here. Aquarius is a sign for the greater good. Um, we may be advocating or feeling more like advocating for social change or for changes within our communities. So, what do we do with the moon in Aquarius? What are some of the great practical things that we can experience? And one of them is about embracing innovation, right? Try not to do things the same way that you've always done them, right? Break up the pattern. Engage in creative projects that require you to think differently or align yourself with different people than you usually do when you're working on a creative project. Problem solving, any unconventional solutions might be the best route to take. Honor your personal space, the independence and the need that you have to have your own place, your own space to do things within, and maybe even your own time away from the social, away from the people, but needing to balance that with time spent with other people. Focus on self reliance. Be your own person, right? This could be expressed through learning a new skill so that you don't have to depend on others to do it for you. But on the other hand, again, we have this little, dichotomy going on, strengthening your social connections, doing things with community involvement or that require your community involvement. Collaborative efforts. Maybe there's a project that you're working on that you can work with others on that to help you get to where you need to be. And one of the benefits of having kind of this emotional detachment is the ability to sort of see things from that distance, right? Using the emotional detachment as a way to reflect on your own feelings and your own um, thinking, rather than being caught up in groupthink. right? It's just kind of one of those fascinating things where Aquarius takes us into the group, but also has us holding our own selves within the group, right? So, and it's like that because we're talking about an axis. Yea, though the moon is in Aquarius, the opposite point is Leo. Leo is the sign of the individual. So if you think about an axis where we're pulling in the energy from the other side to experience it from the alternate viewpoint, so we're pulling in Leo energy of the individual expression, of self expression, and we're moving it into the sign of Aquarius, where we have applying our individuality into the group. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, it's and we get this opportunity once a month to do this, right? When the moon is moving through Aquarius. But we also have Pluto now. Well, he's retrograde moving backward. He'll move out of the sign of Aquarius for a heartbeat, but then he'll be back into Aquarius and fostering a transformation in our lives and in our societies and our cultures that are all about taking that individual expression and bringing it into the group where it can be expressed as part of the party, but everybody in the party is wearing different clothes, singing different songs, maybe, right? Wearing their personalities in different ways. So the axis is what we want to think of, right? Taking that your individual expression, but applying it to the group, standing out as your independent, authentic self, and yet you're part of a group or a community or a tribe that is expressing that energy. So, by the way, so many people here. Good morning to every one of you. Tom, I see you out there. Soul Strategy Therapy, I believe that's Narges. Pam, good morning. Christine, hello. JLo, hello. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, Joan Durchie, and thank you, Debbie. Christine Buckingham, thank you. Pam Zaruba and TD Hawk, good to see you. Jolie, good to see you. And I'm so happy that you are all here with me today. So now I have 3 printed versions of my show notes this morning. That is so funny. You know, when it rains, it pours kind of thing. Oh, all right. Well, it's all right because at least it printed. There's that. Okay, so the transiting moon then in Aquarius until we get to late evening, early morning of the 26th, then the moon will transit into Pisces. Now, I will be on air actually on Wednesday with Tam as we will begin to take a look at what's up for July. So, just a heads up 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, Pacific time, 8 a.m., 11 a.m. For those of you in the East Coast. Tam and I will break down July and start looking ahead. And that's when the moon will be in Pisces. Maybe I'll give a quick shout out about that. When we get into the weekend this week, the moon moves into Aries. So on Friday, when I'm on air with you, we'll talk about that. And of course, the biggest news of the week, Saturn turning retrograde, we'll also chat about on Friday when we get together. So the I want to ask a question, and you guys can actually weigh in on this for me in the chat, if you will. Um, oh, I love that. TD Hawk says she was going to meet up with a group tonight, open mic, singing together, doing solos. What an awesome way to spend the time during the moon in Aquarius. That's great. Just make sure your voice gets heard in all of that too, TD. All right. So question for you guys, and I should have done it as a poll, but I'm not sure I can do that within the context of StreamYard. Can I? Well, I'll check that out another day. One, I am in the process of writing up a moon, if you will, how we go through the moons every morning. Well, I'm going to do a write up about it. So it'll be sort of an ebook where all of the different things about the moon and the signs that it's in will be at your fingertips. So then, when I'm going through these things, maybe we could do that part a little faster and I can spend more time on other things rather than the moon, even though I love the moon. So one, do you guys have an appreciation for or a desire for affirmations for each moon sign? And by moon sign, I mean by the moon transiting through a sign. Or are you not into affirmations? I want to see if that's something worth my time to put together. And do you also like the idea of there's when I write these things up now, I've been doing like rituals and practices, the things that you can do while the moon, let's say, is in the sign or while Mercury's in Cancer, that are, practices or things that you can do to honor the transit of that planet through that sign. Do you have an appreciation for that? Or is that something that can be skipped? Okay. Uh, Good, and you guys can do that, and I will take a look back at that. So you can just say yes on both, or yes to affirmations, no for rituals and practices, or however you want to put that out there. Okay, so let's go on now to God. Like for example, an affirmation for the moon in Aquarius might look like this: I embrace innovation and think outside the box. So you're affirming that, yes, I can do this, right? I can think outside of the box. I don't have to be like everybody else. Maybe I honor my need for independence and personal freedom. So they're just short, little affirmations. I connect with like minded individuals and contribute to my community. So, are those kinds of things valuable to you? All right. Now, this morning, I want to talk a little more about human design. So, I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, yes, it closed up on me. Oh, things that make you go. So, I'm going to open this up first of all, and I'll just do it. What a morning. Let me log into my body graph site, and then I'll share my screen, and I'll just do the presentation as I go along. And I want to make this a little bigger. Oh, maybe too big. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go into presentation mode, and you're going to see my screen, but my screen is really just going to be a blank human design chart. Okay. So what you're seeing here is a human design chart, completely open. There's nothing on it yet. But what I wanted to talk about is this week's energy. Today we're finishing up the solstice energy, where the sun was in the gate 15, the love of humanity, and the earth was in the gate 10, the gate of self-love. Right? Through the equinoxes and the solstices, we always come through those gates of love. And then following this one is very similar to what happens at Christmas time, right? We are opposite of the Christmas season right now. And that's when the sun is moving through the gate 52, which is called the gate of stillness, or the gate of perspective in quantum human design. And then the gate 58 is where the earth is, and that's called the gate of joy, and or the gate of the joy of mastery. So in quantum human design, it takes a little bit different look. And that's down here in the root center. We have the gate 52 down here at the bottom, and the gate 58 down here as well. And the this makes so much sense when we go through it at Christmas time, right? Because we have the music and everything of Christmas, or the season, regardless of whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, or any other celebration at the time. It tends to bring out this season of peace and of stillness or quiet. And it's interesting to have that same thing happening in July, or the end of June and first couple days of July, when actually this year it's all through this June 25th through 30th, when it is, at least in the northern hemisphere, picking up in action and activity as the weather gets nicer and we're on vacations or we're doing more things outdoors. But we still have this opportunity with the gate 52, especially, this is where the sun is, to bring an inner stillness to our lives. So this week, while it doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have a ton of aspects or sign changes that make things a little crazy for us. So we have more opportunities perhaps to focus on inner stillness, bringing ourselves into this quiet place and calm, to find peace and to maintain a steady and grounded perspective. This is where the word perspective comes in. Now, this is on the root center, and the sun is these three gates, the 52, the 60, and the 53. They're called format energies. In human design, a format energy is one that sets the stage for action for us, right? Because they all move toward the sacral. This is the sacral center, which is the center for um, life force energy, for vitality, for the expression of doing and the expression of being, right? Doing and being. And we tend to get really caught up in the doing part of things, but it's an important thing to think about who we are or how we're ready to begin to take action, right? So the 52 is one of the gates that says in order to be ready for action, there has to be some energy of focus and concentration, right? And that comes from a place of stillness. And it's in the stillness where we are able then to get ready for the action, right? So this energy begins the movement toward the sacral, and then of course out and up to the other parts of the human design template as well. So this is also requiring patience on our part. Remember the root center, this center here is it is an engine, if you will, a motor, we call it in human design, and it has an energy of pulse. So it pulses on and then it pulses off. It's much like the will center up here, where it pulses on and pulses off. The root center is one where the pulse is to do something, or get ready to do something, or to rest before doing something, right? So here we have the 52. It's about having the patience, the focus, and the concentration gathered around you in order to take that next step. So it's about understanding that sometimes stillness is necessary in order to see the bigger picture, in order to gain clarity before taking action. All of that quietness before we jump, right? Or before we go. Now, the earth is in the gate 58. She's over here in the on the root center as well, but these three gates, 54, 38, and 58, they're all moving toward the spleen center, which we could call the center of success. We could call it the center for time, intuition, health and well-being. And these gates over here that 58 would connect with would be about using our intuitive awareness to find that a way to thrive, let's call it, in I was going to say survive, but that's just so minimal, right? We want to thrive. We don't want to just survive. So this center can take on the energy of success in thriving, right? Thriving. So in order to thrive, one of the gates, 58, says that we have to have some positive energy. We have to have some idea of the vitality and enthusiasm inherent in the gate of joy in order to move out that energy and to go forth with joy into our lives or into the world. So, the gate of the joy of mastery is about the pursuit of excellence. It has to be the standard by which we move out, right? And the joy that we find in the process of mastering a skill or pursuing our dreams, our goals, right? It encourages the continuous improvement and finding delight in the process, right? Finding the joy. And it's coming from within, not so much without, right? So it's when we're pursuing what we love, there's an inside generator generating that joyfulness, right? Or that experience of happiness that then moves outward from us. So it's not something that outside, then we feel joy. It's that we're pursuing something that we really love and that generates joy that then goes and flows outward from us. I hope you guys see that difference. So that's where the sun and earth are starting tomorrow. And For those next, let's see, that would be 5 days, 6 days, 5 days. There's only 30 days in June. It's all about these two energies coming to a still point and then pursuing joy. What brings us joy. All right. So there is a need then for the week for us to embrace inner stillness and perspective. And that happens through maybe meditation or maybe through reflection time, right? Or just time for quiet. um, that helps us gain clarity in what it is that we want to do. Mindful observation is another way to look at that. Pursuing joy and pursuing the joy of mastery, mastering your craft, whatever that is. And then engaging in joyfulness while you are in that. It brings a sense of fulfillment to us, right, this week. And dedicate time then to doing the things that you really love and pursuing those things that you love on a regular basis, right? It's all part of your human design to do that. And then as well, balancing, we don't want to be all stillness and no action, and we don't want to be all action and no stillness. So we have to bring a balance to those two things. So patience in action and then going with the flow, right? Finding the flow, striving to find the flow between being still and actively engaged, and understand that both are necessary for holistic growth. That's the key, right? Both are necessary. But there are challenges to watch out for, and this will be different for each one of you based on how your own human design is set up, right? Like, for example, I have the gate 52 defined already. So that means now that we have the sun sitting at 52, there's going to be a lot of focus on the planet that I have already sitting there. But maybe you don't have any planets sitting there, right? And now with the sun sitting there, you're bringing definition, you're bringing the experience of stillness, of needing patience to your human design, to your actions, right? So for you, it'd be like a new experience, perhaps. Maybe you experience that differently from the people around you, but now it'll be your own need to bring in balance to action and stillness. So, one of the biggest challenges to watch out for is impatience. This will be a week where we have to overcome restlessness. Remember, Jupiter is in Gemini. It's dragging us into, this ideas, following ideas and acting on ideas and, generating maybe a lack of focus for us as maybe there's so many things that we could be, taking part in. Remember, Jupiter now at the gate 16 himself, which is up here on the throat center, which generates enthusiasm, right? This is where Jupiter is, right up here. And, that enthusiasm needs an outlet, right? So being um, aware of where you might be being pushed or feeling restless or feeling impatient to express your enthusiasm, to express your joy. So practice patience and remind yourself that clarity often comes when you take that step back, when you wait for a moment, right? When you just say, okay, let's put the brakes on for a minute. The lights turned red, it will turn green, but right now I need to stop. And then ensure your enthusiasm for doing things does not lead to burnout, because that's the bigger key here, is that this is root center energy, and the root center as a motor can burn out because we continually push ourselves or force ourselves to keep doing and doing because we miss the impulse to stop or slow down. So avoid that. But on the other hand, we also need to avoid stagnation. And I think sometimes during this kind of a week where we have both sun and earth in a place that are, tending to drag us inward, right, to see more about what is going on within us, that we might feel or we might discover where there are places where we've become complacent or where stagnation has taken over. So while stillness is important, we don't want to become stagnant or stuck in a rut, right? We don't want to do that. But we do want to gain perspective about what actions we need to take. and taking inspired action then in the right time. And then we also want to manage our positive focus, right? Maintaining that positive outlook. This is very far away from the mind energy. It's very far away from the throat energy. There's no direct connection, by the way, from either of these gates up to the head or up to the throat. It moves through the different centers in order to get there. So, patience is a process that allows us to gain steam, right? To get to where we want to go. So, practice makes perfect in all of these things. And definitely pursue what it is that brings you joy, but you're doing it in a way that might be, more still or calm. And you're going to be doing things in a way that embraces the clarity that you need before you take the action on what it is that you want to do. All right. And then just an example of some of the affirmations that might come up for something like this. I balance periods of stillness with inspired and deliberate action. Maybe I radiate positive energy and enthusiasm for life. So I'm just giving you like a sense of what some affirmations might be. All right, let me go back to the other screen here a minute and see. Good morning to you, Asa. Soul Strategy says affirmations and rituals, especially with your divine wisdom and intuition, are always appreciated. Awesome. I will do this then. I think most people are saying um, balsamic Scorpio moon, Pam says, especially with the stages of the moon. Ritual we do diligently without noticing it. Direction is always welcome. I love that. I never say no to affirmations, so positive and supportive. Okay, good. So I will start kind of doing that. Diana S., very interested in Saturn retrograde. My natal moon is at 14 degrees in the sixth house and 22 degrees Mars on descendant. So Saturn is, I'm assuming what you're saying is that they are in um, Pisces. Is that correct? So you might clear that up a little bit for me. And if so, then Saturn is definitely going to be bringing those into your clarity, into your field of experience. JLo 58 connects with my 2 Pluto placement, and 52 connects to my design North Node and Neptune. Go figure why I was feeling sleepy. I was doing that this morning as well. It was just a slow start to the day. Diana says yes in Pisces. Okay, so remember, all things about Pisces have to do with boundaries, have to do with bringing in from the imagination realm and into the real world. And Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is like the complete opposite energy of anything to do with Pisces. And considering then that you have other planets here, you're being asked perhaps, Diana, to take a look at what are you working on in your life, and are you actually taking action, inspired action, or are you floundering somewhat? So I think Saturn here really helping you to gauge what next steps you need to take. I think you said it was in the sixth house, which is the house of health and service. How do I give back? How do I share of myself with others? Um, Routines and so forth. Maybe there are some rituals or practices that you can engage in that help you ground in the action. Now, interestingly enough, when Saturn goes retrograde, and even now he is sitting at the gate 22. Let me get back to that screen so I can show you. The gate 22 is over here on the emotional center, and this is where Saturn is. So the gate 22 is about grace, and the grace in this particular gate is keyed up with timing, because the emotional center seeks clarity over time. And this is the solar plexus or the emotional center. It is also a motor, right now, anyway, in human design. And it seeks to find clarity on the very next step it needs to take. And there's grace in waiting, and there's grace in acting, right? And taking action. So Saturn at the 22 invites us to make sure that we're aligned with the actions, the next steps, in the right timing, that we're not forcing or pushing our way into action. And when we are in the right timing, it is charm and graceful. It's charming energy. It's being able to say what you need to say and express yourself in the right way at the right time with the right people. When it's out of the right timing or when it's against timing, we can feel like we're stumbling around, like we can't quite get to where we want to go, or we're waffling between, one side and the other, one decision and the other. And that would tell us that, or it would be an open invitation to wait, right? To take some time, to not jump into taking action. So it would be kind of a balancing deal here. All right. I hope that helps. We're going to get more into Saturn and his retrograde on Friday when we talk. All right. So let's see. Did I finish up everything that I wanted to talk about with the 52 and the 58? Yeah, I think I did. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a minute and go to some of the aspects that are happening for the week now. The the first one that really got to me this week is Mercury in a trine to Saturn. So this is like the lead up, the run up to Saturn retrograde. Diana, in yours, you might want to think about this too. That transiting Mercury's in Cancer and transiting Saturn is in Pisces. So we have fellow water signs that are triggering our inner wisdom, our inner knowing, intuition, you might call it, the possibility for clarity, right? And in a trine, that is an aspect that implies an ease and flow between the two planets in this case, because the two signs have an affinity for one another, right? They might act in different directions, right? Mutable is what Pisces is all about. And that's the ability to be in change or transformational energy or becoming adaptable and flexible. And Cancer, where Mercury is in a cardinal sign. That is initiating energy. So we have initiating energy that is working in tandem with the energy of change and transformation. So we are blending some really good energies. And then we're blending Mercury's intelligence, clear potential for clear communication, but also emotional intelligence and emotional communication. And we're blending that with Saturn's practical considerations, right? Making it a good time for us for thoughtful planning or for effective communication, right? Mercury in the trine to Saturn. So we have emotional clarity and we have emotional discipline. We have empathetic communication owing to Cancer, right? Mercury in Cancer emphasizes that nurturing energy, that empathetic way of speaking to one another. And it helps us express our thoughts and feelings in a more caring and sensitive manner. So, Mercury here, very helpful for that. As well, emotional awareness, where we become more attuned to what it is we're thinking and how that's impacting our emotions, or we become more attuned to what we're feeling and how that is impacting our thinking, right? It works both ways. And then that enhances our ability to communicate clearly, right? Because we have emotional clarity. So this is a really positive flow of this energy leading up to Saturn's retrograde. Okay, so it's really good for that. Structured thinking and spiritual depth, that's Saturn and Pisces. Disciplined intuition. And what does that mean? That's a disciplined approach, let's call it, to using your intuitive gifts, your intuitive abilities. So it encourages us to ground in our dreams and our ideas into practical expression. And practical intuition or disciplined approach to intuition would be to actually take action on your intuition, right? It This is Saturn in Pisces, and this is true for the entire transit of the sign, is bringing us a sort of spiritual maturity. It's an invitation for us to foster spiritual growth in our lives as a collective, but also, as individuals, and that helps us to integrate our emotional and our spiritual insights into our daily lives. Remember, we're on the cusp of a major evolution in our design, in our human design. And that is to where the emotional center is going to be changing from the motor, which is where it is now, and the motor, which sometimes we are in reaction to all of the emotional energy. And it's changing to become more of an awareness center. And by an awareness center, we mean we are aware of what it is that we're feeling, and we're not taking action on that until we're really sure about, taking some time, deciding what would be the best course of action, and then choosing how we respond. So, this is a big change that we can all be practicing with now when we have these kinds of transits that help us to see that a part of our spiritual growth is not being reactive to our emotional energy, right? Now, the trine, the 120-degree angle between the two planets, helps us to balance communication with emotion, right? This is about the smooth flow between our thoughts and our emotions. And then that leads us to more balanced and effective communication. It's easier to discuss sensitive topics, perhaps with others, because we are more compassionate in the way that we are understanding the plight of our fellow human beings. But also, there's a practical application here. Remember, Saturn loves practical, he loves the real world. And there's the practical approach to all of the things that we do here. So, while we have enhanced communication, we also need empathetic listening, right? This is interesting because so many times we want to say, right? We want to talk, but sometimes what's really required is the empathetic ear, right? Just listening to what people are saying. Pay attention to what the emotional undertones of the conversations are that you're having, especially if they're, charged things. And then focus on expressing your thoughts and your ideas in a clear way with as much emotional kindness as possible, right? Empathy and compassion. Um, Now, there's also a need for some organized thinking here. Remember, Pisces, this is where Saturn is in. Pisces is all over the place. It's nebulous, it's hard to pin down. And Cancer, where Mercury is has emotional energy attached to it. So sometimes that's also hard to pin down because if you're not feeling it, you can't quite express it. So we have to be very clear about, is it right timing to take action, to say what needs to be said, or is it not the right timing? Can I just let this go, right, without having to take action on what I think I need to say? Or do I really need to take action on what I need to say? And only your own intuition can guide you with that, right? And part of that is going to be that we don't necessarily think clearly when we're tinged with a lot of emotion, right? So we're balancing all of this. Spiritual and emotional integration also possible here. Mindfulness practice is so helpful, right? If you're someone who meditates or participates in, those mindfulness exercises, grounding exercises, those might be the most beneficial things that you've ever done in your life during a transit like this. Right. And if you've not done those kinds of things, it's a great time to start that, to be able to balance emotion and logic, right? Balancing your inner self with your expressive outer self, maintaining flexibility, right? Not getting caught in a trap, if you will. Being very clear about um, that what needs to be balanced in your life. Maybe a grounding meditation, right? There's great apps. The one I like is called Insight Timer, and I'm sure there's plenty of others out there. In fact, I know there are. Um, but you can find grounding meditations. You just download the app. It's free, and just search for grounding meditation if you need that, and engage in that meditation to help you connect to um, spiritual insights, but with a practical action potential that's a part of that. And here is where organizational planning might be beneficial as well. Time management, those are the boring, I think, aspects of Mercury trine Saturn, but both of those planets appreciate planning and the idea of setting goals and having a task list, if you will, of how it is I want to get to where I'm going to go. And maybe, for some of us who are flighty or who have a lot of things happening in our lives, this would be a really good time to take the time to be able to understand and to take action in the right way. All right. Questions. Jacqueline Tyler, good morning to you. Hello, Terry. And Diana says yes in Pisces. So tell me, how you guys are all feeling astrologically at the moment. Are you feeling stirred up? Are you feeling the quiet? Are you feeling a pause? Kind of give me an idea of how you're feeling while I talk about the gates of Aquarius that will be triggered while the moon is transiting through the sign. And you can tell me, what your challenges are. You might tell me if you're feeling whacked out because you don't know what's happening. You can also tell me, whatever it is that you're struggling with, and let's see if we can't help find something that you can take action on in a good way. So now the moon's move into Aquarius first triggered the gate 60. And let me go back to let me go back to presentation mode and share that screen so everybody can see the chart presentation. I'm just going to erase some of this stuff here. So give me a second. The gate 60 is on the root center, by the way. So, and just ignore these up here for the moment. So the gate 60 is where the moon first moved into, and it's called the gate of limitation. And remember, I said these three gates right here are format energies. It's what we have to have ready in order for us to go to the next step, which is the sacral and in the doing of something. So the gate 60 is called limitation, which I can't stand that name. It has a better word in, let's see, in quantum human design, it is, I think it's conservation. And it gives us this idea of needing to conserve our energy. Yep, conservation. So I think of it as gathering your resources, right? Gathering your wits about you, focusing in, limiting yourself to what is the most important next step to take in order to be able to sustain yourself. So, right, we can't just have, well, we have access to unlimitedness, right? And yet, if we're trying to create something or we're trying to put out a product, let's say, we actually have to limit ourselves to the steps that it takes to get to that in order to get it done, to make it real. If we're trying to focus on too many things in the wideness of all of our ideas, then we go nowhere fast, right? So, limitation here is really about if you have something that you want to bring into reality, if you have a change that you're trying to make in your life, that you have to focus it in, you have to limit yourself to certain things. So, you have to bring it in and then focus it in a direction. So, gate 60 is where we started that transit. And it is in the root center. So again, we know that it has energy of motion to it. But sometimes we have the pause and then we take action. Now, the next gate that it goes to is the 41. So today the moon is in the 41, and the 41 is called the gate of fantasy or imagination, right? It is the gate where the human design new year begins. And the human design new year is always about the potential for the ideas to come into reality. But they can't come into reality if you don't take action. So the action required here is to match the idea or the ideal with an action and then put it out into the world. Now that's moving over here toward the emotional center, the solar plexus at the gate 30. And when the 41 meets up with the 30, it is your ideas that are now matched with passion and desire. And that drives the ability for us to stay the course to get the idea into reality. So the moon moving through here, what are the ideas that you have? And then what are the steps you need to take to bring those ideas into reality? Then the next gate will be the gate 19. And the gate 19 is a gate of belonging. It's not called belonging, it's called, hold on, sensitivity, I believe. And 19 is called attunement. Um, it is a gate where, first of all, we have as humans, we have this desire or this want to belong, right? So the 19 is very sensitive to the people, the energy that we surround ourselves by. And the 19 is also a gate that sensitizes us to the mammalian world, right? This is where we are able to communicate with animals. This is a it's an interesting gate, and it's sensitivity, sensitive to the unseen realm, sensitive to the morphogenetic fields, right? The energy strings that connect us all together, or that move around the earth. So it's a gate of sensitivity, and we attune ourselves to those sensitivities or to those energies. And then we'll move up here to the identity center. I'm going to take that one away. And I'm going to take this one away so it's just not crowded here. Ah, turn white. Why won't you go to white? Okay, fine, whatever. Stay there. Um, Now we're up here at the gate 13. And the gate 13 is a kind of storyteller gate or story keeper gate. It is where we hold on to some of the truths, the human truths, and where those things come from deep within us and we share with others. So the 13 has a lot to do with the narrative, the story that we tell, and how we share of those experiences with others. And from that, others, feel it does have this sense of um, bringing us together as a human family, right? Because we share common stories, but it's also an open invitation to change the story, right? If the story or the narrative that you've been telling is one that keeps you locked into a stagnant pattern or to old beliefs or to, negativity, then it's time to change the story. So the moon moving through here tomorrow will bring us that. And the gate 49, which is back down here on the solar plexus, maybe that's why I didn't want to go to white. The 49 is called the gate of revolution. This is where big changes happen. Now we won't have the moon there anymore at the 19, but the 49 is the emotional energy for transforming and revolutionizing the world. So we all become a little bit rebellious as we move through the final gates of Aquarius, finally landing at the gate 30, which is the gate of desire and the gate of passion. So, in order to move forward, right, moving out of Aquarius and into Pisces, we need to take our passion with us, and this is passion to what are you passionate about, right? And that's what ideas you act on, right? So the moon triggering the 41 earlier in her transit through Aquarius and ending with, all right, what ideas of all the ideas and all of the creativity that came in during this period of time, which ones rhyme with my passion? Therefore, I take action on those things that are something that are important to me. All right. Let me stop share. Did it actually share my screen? Oh my. I'm canceling it. All right. So, some people are saying things about theirs. I'm botching that. I'm so sorry. Elimeum has 19.1 hanging in the south node. in the design. So, I only have 5 minutes, but let me just talk about the difference between the design because many of you are probably hearing people say, oh, the design, or this is on my um, personality side. So when you get your human design chart, there are two columns of numbers. One column is black, it's the one on the right side. Up above, it usually says something like personality. And all of those numbers denote traits in your DNA that really are triggered by the soul, right? It's your innermost being. It's the part of you that you probably recognize. It is the soul, right? It's your cosmic self. Let's call it that, your cosmic self. I love that. The cosmic self. Now, the red column, the numbers on the left are really about, it says design above it. And that column is really about the body, the physical you. So we have the spiritual you, the cosmic self, and then we have the earthly self. So the design would be the way that the soul is going to express itself in this lifetime, right? It's the design, the plan that you made. Like this isn't just like thrust upon you and saying, like this is how you will do it. This was your plan as a soul when you were coming into this lifetime, into this incarnation, that the way that you would, put yourself into the body and how that would express through you in the world. So Ellie is expressing herself or himself. It doesn't tell me what sex you are, so I apologize if I'm doing that wrong. You're expressing yourself through sensitivity and through remembering, because it's your south node, remembering that empathy and that sensitivity and that ability that you have to sense the unseen world, to sense what's there, and then to take action on that sensitivity, right? So that's your design south node, the gifts, the talents, the experiences from many lifetimes that you're holding. So you have an ability to be sensitive. Now, 19 is interesting too, because sometimes people with the 19 struggle to feel wanted or to feel like they belong. So they sometimes will enact a lifelong search to feel that belonging. And they want to feel like they belong. That in your case, what you're sharing, that your gifts and your talents are finding purchase out there in the world somewhere, uh, with certain people, or with the world at large. So, all right, I'm going to pull us some cards now, and maybe we could take that conversation a little further someday soon. Because I love talking about human design. All right, so let's get a card for us as the week goes on. Remember, I will be here on Wednesday with Tam to report on July's energies. And then also, I'll be here on Friday for the usual Friday. And the card that we get upside down, the consequence of fear, card number 20. And it says contraction, the frequency of fear, and self fulfilling prophecy, but it was upside down. Look at this card, though. Isn't that beautiful? So, card number 20, I mean, which is a 2. Let's see what this means. So, the consequences of fear based decisions made in the past are revealing themselves to you. Hmm. It's a good thing you can take a step back and repair whatever appears to be fractured. Having a sense of humor and a lot of self compassion would be helpful now. Allow yourself to regroup in your own time and shift your perspective. You are not a failure. You are not flawed, and you have made no irreparable mistakes. The questions to ask are, where am I placing my faith and trust? And why am I expecting the worst or viewing through the lens of lack? You made choices from the perceived energy around you then, and you will get to make different ones in the future. Give your fears to your higher power and act as if you believe you are in good hands. How could you not be? Life on earth is a spiritual experiment after all. We say that about human design too. It's the experiment. It's the experiment in being wise to who it is that you are at soul level, and how it is that you're here to express yourself. There you go. The consequence of fear. So get out of your own way Get out of fear and lack and move forward with your passions. All right, everybody. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for being here. See you on Wednesday. Bye for now.